David Smith here with another Flip Classroom math video. A few tips before we get started. First, remember that you can slow down or speed up the playback if that helps you follow along. You can also pause the video at any point to perfect your notes, or if you want to try the problems before I explain them. Lastly, remember that you could turn on the captions and read my words going along the bottom of your screen. Today's topic: solving quadratics with the null factor law. Now, the null factor law is just a fancy way of saying anything times 0 is 0. Now, this is something that undoubtedly you already know. We're going to exploit this property to solve quadratics. And this is a key part of solving quadratics, so you want to make sure you get this one. So, if I have two letters, two variables, and they're multiplied, if they equal 0, if a times b is 0, then we know for sure that either a is 0 or b is 0, or they both could be 0, but that's not required. All we know for sure is that one of those two terms has to be 0 for this to equal to 0. So if I have an equation that is set equal to 0, then I know for sure that either this term is 0 or this term is 0. So this is going to create one of those branches that we did in our last lesson. So the way I would analyze this is I would branch here and go, okay, if this equation is true, then perhaps 2x equals 0. And then I would solve for x. Divide both sides by 2. Guess what? 0 divided by 2 is still 0. So one solution to this equation is x equals 0. And that makes sense because if I put 0 in for x, then 2 times 0 is going to be 0. So no matter what this is, it's going to get multiplied by 0, so the whole thing is going to be true or equal to 0. So that's our first branch. Let's take a look at our second branch. X minus 4 equals 0. So now I can solve this one. I'm going to add 4 to both sides. And I'm going to get x equals 4. So here's our second solution. X equals 4. So if I plug 4 in here, I'm going to get 4 minus 4. This term is going to be 0. Doesn't matter what 2 times x is because it's going to get multiplied by 0, so it will be 0. So this quadratic has two solutions, 0 and 4. Okay, let's do 3 examples. If you feel confident and you want to give it a shot, pause the video right now and see if you can work these 3 problems. Okay, let's take a look at this one. This is very much like the example that we just did. My 2 branches are, if this part is 0, the whole thing is 0. So I set 6x equal to 0, and this one gives us x equals 0. I'm going to divide both sides by 6. That leaves x over here. 0 divided by 6 is still 0. So there's one of my solutions. Now let's try this one. X plus 4 equals 0. Subtract 4 from both sides. That leaves me with x equals negative 4. 2 solutions, 0 and minus 4. Now if you're not confident, you can take your solutions, plug it back into the original equation, and it should work. So if 0 works, that means 6 times 0, that's 0. Doesn't matter what this is, the whole thing's going to be 0, so that worked. Let's put in negative 4. Negative 4 for x gives us negative 4 plus 4. This part is now 0. Doesn't matter what that is, the whole thing is going to be 0. So that worked. Let's try a little bit more complicated one. So now I have 2 things. I have this thing times that thing equaling 0. So let's do our branch. Our first one is x plus 3 equals 0. Subtract 3 from both sides. I get x equals negative 3. There's my first solution. Now we're going to do this one, a little more complicated. Now this is where, in the last video, I was giving you a reminder that your algebra skills for solving equations are definitely assumed prior knowledge. I'll talk about how to do this, but if you're shaky on this, you'll want to review. I want to get the x alone. The first thing is I need to get this minus 5 over to the other side. So I'm going to add 5 to both sides and get 2x equals 5. Now I divide through by 2. Divide by 2. These cancel. I'm going to get x equals 5 over 2. That's a perfectly good fraction to write. If you want, you could write 2 1/2. Or you could write 2.5. But 5/2 is fine. Okay, let's try this last one. Pause the video and see if you can do that. Okay, 2 branches. x minus 2 equals 0. Add 2 to both sides to cancel out the negative 2, and I'm going to get x equals 2. There's my first solution. Second branch, 6x minus 24 equals 0. Move the 24 over by adding 24 to both sides. 6x equals 24. Now I'm going to divide both sides by 6, which will cancel that out. And 24 divided by 6 is just 4. So that gives me two solutions here of 2 and 4. Now that you've finished the video, take a moment to jot down any questions that you have so you can bring them to our next class and get some help. You can also watch the video again to perfect your understanding. If you enjoyed the video, please click the like button down below, and if you'd like to help me grow my YouTube channel, please click subscribe.